Yeah, for sure. And you know, you're thinking about Belda Dogeta. Kenya always have that ferocious finisher at the wing. They miss his services, but let's not focus on the players that have not made it. Let's think about the players who have made it on this team. The team is already here in Uganda. They checked into the hotel, and as we speak right now, they are on pitch in their training session, which was held at the graveyard in Makerere. So if you wish to see the Kenya national team, maybe now you can rush to Makerere and get a chance to see them. But some of those who have made it, we heard from the team manager and their captain. Who is your focus on, Lydia?
There's one gentleman, probably you could remind me of the name. He has dreadlocks. I think he's their number 10. I can't recall the name, but that player is quite swift in his play. He has eye for like the opposition. He knows how to take runs, watch out for spaces, kick. Like he has timely kicks. But I can't recall the name, but he has dreadlocks, and I saw him on the team that made arrivals this morning. He's going to be part of that team, and I'll be looking out for him.
Allan Musoke. First of all, you're finally here. Where have you been?
I was actually stuck at around the police headquarters. I don't know what's happening there, but it's gridlock. I think it's Fanero.
Oh, on a Thursday, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I've spent all this time coming from Lugogo. I had a work engagement there, but
I hope you put in a prayer for the tournament as a whole.
Oh, he was at the graveyard on the Kenyan team.
I would actually love to see them training, because it's one of those things where, but you know, you give nothing away in any of these things. The usual things that you see them going through, they're going to go through their usual paces. They're going to pull a move or two. And because when you're in enemy territory like it is now, normally in those last training sessions, you don't want to give very many away. But in the morning, like when there are no eyes and nobody's watching you, that's when you actually have your backs meeting, and then you're going through your intense moves. So it's well, the Kenyans are here now, so it's time for battle. Yeah,
it's time for battle. Last year's tournament began against Senegal in the quarterfinals. It was a bit of a struggle. Then they faced Algeria in the first Zimbabwe in the semi-final, was it?
They faced Algeria.
No, faced Algeria in the semi-final. Then Algeria upset Namibia. So they faced Algeria, and then they finished their tournament. They had to settle for 4th place against Namibia in a very tough bronze medal match that they had to play for. I think Kenya, describing their path to the World Cup, it's been one of those teams that have come so close yet so far. How are those near misses affecting their team, Allan Musoke, especially from a player's perspective?
From a player's perspective, I think they are. I think they're little. I would actually assume their camp is disorganized. They're actually lucky that this tournament is not at home, because of the boardroom politics that's happening back home, and there are all these kinds of bans and all these kinds of riots. So I think they are very, very happy that this tournament is not in Kenya by any means, because all those boycotts are happening. As players, I think when they touch down into Entebbe, it's now get down to business. How quickly do we regroup and forget everything that's happening back home and just focus on the task at hand, which is qualifying for the World Cup? It's tough because they are part of the boycott. They are looking for allowances, and such things kind of like disorganize the camp. And I think we're having a chat earlier on what all this media hype also does. It also does actually affect the focus of the team. So I think the Kenyans who are here, they are focused now. They are just going to sit down and just get themselves the task at hand. I think there'll still be a handful. I believe we should be able to have the upper hand. I think we have a much better, much more settled squad now, and more in depth. I think we've had more time together, and our build-up games, I think we are more astute in terms of the way that we want to play. So I have a very, very good feeling that we're going to pick them in the quarterfinal.
You know, one of the players that Lydia Issu was thinking about is Brian Wahinya. Yeah, in that number 9 position. When we got these images, that's when I remembered. But there's a number of players who are in, number of players who are out. They are facing Uganda in the opening match, and that's going to be the, I don't want to call it the headline match, but it's been earmarked for prime time in rugby, which is 4 p.m. at Nambole on Tuesday. Kenya versus Uganda is the biggest rivalry on the African continent in the Elgon Cup, listed among the top 5 in world rugby. For many, the statistics do not matter at all. And Lydia, that's what I would love to ask you for. In the context of the Rugby Africa Cup, what do you think is going to be maybe the top 2 things that will make a difference for Kenya? Because specifically this time we're speaking about Kenya. What will make the difference against Uganda in this high stakes game in the quarterfinal of the Africa Cup?
I think it will be they'll utilize their size. When it comes down to the scrums, they know they have an edge over us. And then also their specialty in the mauls, they use that against us mostly. But hopefully we'll find a strategy and defend against those mauls. I had a peep, so our cranes training the mauls as well. But I would prefer we don't use the mauls as the Kenyans prefer. We would rather go for the line out. Opio is in the line out, then just pass the ball and then we get moving. But I know Kenya will use that against us, but I'm sure the technical team has a plan to defend against those. And us in the stands, we shall also be cheering for that. For us, the fans, every move that Uganda makes, we're going to be cheering. So that's what makes the game different on home soil.
Allan, Musoke, what do you think will make the difference for Kenya, maybe?
I think, again, yes, Lydia intimated about their size, and they're going to come and use it. And of course, Jerome Powwater, being a South African, is a very, very firm believer in mauls. I believe after we've faced Namibia, it was Achilles heel when we played them in the Elgon Cup. We actually saw the damage that rolling mauls have on us. So I have an inkling that we are going to cause a lot of damage in their defense. I think we should be structured enough to be able to defend against those rolling mauls. And I'm actually just hoping that we can clear our lines a lot better. We suffered in the Elgon Cup. We struggled just because our exits were just not good enough. So for the Kenyans, I know they're going to use their pace. They have a solid kicking game, and of course they're going to bring their big boys to try to batter you. But I believe we have a much better squad now than we had last year, and than we had in the Elgon Cup.
It's very difficult to speak about Kenya without using they, and speak about Uganda without using we.
Yeah.
One of the players that the Kenya Simbas has who will be leading them is the youngster, and who was one of their key performers, to be honest, in last year's tournament, but then also in the Elgon Cup, whose shots that we are having. That is Eugene Sifuna at that front row. Scored 3 tries in the Africa Cup, but for a front row forward scoring that number of tries, and you get to see how much involvement he has in their set pieces, he's one to look out for. I'd like us to shift a little bit quickly to the West African teams, and look at Cote d'Ivoire and Senegal. Especially, remember yesterday our focus was on, when we looked at the North African teams, Morocco and Algeria had a couple of similarities, to be honest, in the style in which they play. We saw their clips with Algeria doing a lot of kicking, and when they got the chance, they will always try to run the ball, and that was similar to what Madagascar were doing. West African teams are a bit different, and Lydia, this is exactly where I would like for us to focus on. How can you describe Senegal and Cote d'Ivoire from what we've seen, but then from a little bit of the homework that you've been doing?
I'll just start off with a lighter note. The Cote d'Ivoire jersey, given this year's theme, Feel the African Spirit, it's very, very African when it's on the pitch. I'm looking forward to what they will be wearing this year. Cote d'Ivoire looked like that team to beat Senegal as well. They played fast, like in the morning hours. That was last year. So in terms of size, we were like, okay, Senegal is beatable. Cote d'Ivoire as well is beatable. They have a big guy. You can see the bigger guy over there. It's like one big guy. Then all the other guys are sizable compared to our boys. Cote d'Ivoire have a bit of pace. They run lines and they can catch you off guard, but they are defendable as well. So Senegal gave us a tough time for that 5th playoff. We reached a point it was 23 all, and then next thing you know it is 26 all. Then we have to go into sudden death.
Extra time.
So and that particular game, I can recall Kisiga's try. He ran a really good number of meters to make that try, and we were like all up for it. It was a good game.
You know, Allan, Musoke, you cannot speak about Senegal in African rugby without talking about, and I am not sure if you are still playing at that time, but that trip for Uganda to Senegal, how difficult is it? This one is at home, but I just would like to understand how difficult the conditions become when you're facing Senegal.
Actually, all West African teams, I think it's a nightmare to go and play them. We went to Cameroon, one of our very, very first tours to Douala, and they do everything to take you off your game, from leaving you not to check in at the airport and they frustrate you with visa issues, to getting to your hotel rooms and they are not ready, to late pickups for training and things. So like, all food is inadequate, they're only giving you bread and salad. The weather is different. So they do all kinds of things to knock you off your game. And on game day, it doesn't become any easier. They're aggressive, they're eye-gouging, they are kicking, stamping, but all of that comes to naught because you should be prepared for that. They are going to do everything else to make sure they win, and that's in their nature. They pick it from there, and they are big boys. So you have to put in your shift in defense. The only advantage that you might have is they're not really that skilled in terms of silky hands like the North Africans would be. So you'll find 1 or 2 players who are exceptional, but the rest will just take it straight on. So you have to get ready for that straight running. You have to get ready for being battered, and of course they have a very, very heavy pack. So your technique really, really has to be spot on.